Okay, all right. Well, I might have some interesting information for you guys. Okay, great. All right, so this is House Hacking, the Radical Housing Choice. So I just wanted to share a little bit about me. So my name's Ryan Weiss. I'm from New Hampshire. I am currently a house hacker. My profession is I own a property management business. So we manage about 850 rental units in the state of New Hampshire. I don't own all of those units, but I manage them on behalf of other people that are real estate investors. So I'm also a licensed real estate broker, so I know and understand a thing or two about real estate investing and property management. I just wanted to share some interesting stats on both New Hampshire housing, because that's the state that I'm from, as well as national housing. So this is from NH Business Review. New Hampshire's median single-family house hit a record $535,000 in 2025 after a 122% increase over the past decade. So housing prices in New Hampshire doubled in the past decade. A home buyer would need to earn over $158,000 a year, $76 an hour, just to avoid being cost burdened, and only about 30% of New Hampshire households meet that threshold. So purchasing a single-family residence is really harder than ever in the state of New Hampshire. And we're seeing this nationally as well. So the national housing crisis, cost-burdened renter households hit a new all-time high of 22.7 million in 2024, setting a record for the fourth consecutive year. Since the pandemic, renters' housing costs rose 38%, while incomes only increased 28%. So when Gen Z complains that their grandparents bought a single-family home for 2 raspberries and $5, there is some credence to that. It's not all, maybe certainly some of it is like victim mindset and woe is me, but some of it is backed up in actual data. This is from Bankrate. More than 75% of homes across the country are unaffordable for the typical household per Bankrate. Home ownership is starting to feel less like a common middle-class milestone and more like a luxury to a lot of people, especially younger people. I'm 28. Of our friends, one other friend our age owns a home. So most of our friends do not own a home in their 20s. Some more housing facts. Americans spend 30 to 40% of their gross income on housing. So that's more than double the next largest category, which is transportation. So this is Americans' largest expense. It's very important. Home prices have risen 55% nationally over the past 5 years. So if you're a homeowner in the room, congratulations on getting rich. If you're not, sorry. Compressing, more than a decade of typical appreciation into just a few years. Rents are up more than 30% nationally since 2030, and 62% of Americans say buying a home in 2026 is unrealistic, up from 49% just 1 year ago.
So like as of now?
Yeah, as of now. Yeah. So more and more people are feeling this pressure, and it does seem to be backed up by the actual numbers. Now, it's not all hopeless. This is where I want to introduce the concept of house hacking. House hacking can be an alternative that you or someone you know can use to purchase a home that you can both live in and also own as an investment property. So the definition that I have for house hacking is owner occupying a multifamily property, typically 2 to 4 units, although more could work. House hacking combines some of the best benefits of home ownership while eliminating or significantly reducing your housing costs. It's a perfect way to buy your first rental property, and it's a perfect way for a couple of reasons that I'll get into. It's a great way to be a hands-on landlord and to understand and learn landlording like sort of viscerally. And then also as a first-time home buyer, you have access to lending that real estate investors do not have access to when they're purchasing investment properties exclusively. So you can combine some subsidized loan options with buying a rental property, and that can make it so that you don't have to find a slam dunk deal. You can find an okay deal, and it'll be a slam dunk deal because of the excellent financing you have. And it allows you to get preferable owner occupant financing, and it's a great intro to landlording. House hacking turbocharges early financial independence. House hacking, when done correctly, or even just okay, significantly cuts down on your largest expense. So again, Americans spend 30 to 40% on housing. So you can cut down on your largest expense, and you start to benefit from the appreciation of American housing. So you cut down largest expense and you get on the appreciation side. This can add, anywhere between $20,000 to $50,000 to your net worth year over year. The average American has roughly 50 to 70% of their net worth in their home, and housing is a non-negotiable need, right? Everyone has to live somewhere. So my suggestion to you is, why not consider house hacking? This is me and my dad at my wedding. My dad is the OG house hacker. This is the home that I grew up in Manchester, New Hampshire. It is a triplex. And so while I was growing up, my dad bought this house when I was about 2 years old. And my dad really inspired me to consider house hacking and real estate investment. And for me, I had personal benefits as a kid. Anyone else coming in? I had personal benefits, as a kid that my dad directly tied to his house hacking, which was, my dad would say, "Hey, we can go to Chuck E. Cheese this weekend because I don't have a mortgage to pay," and I was like, "Okay, that's pretty sweet," and then we got to do other things.
Where am I at our wedding?
Oh, well, I just wanted to show my dad.
Is this your wife?
Yeah, it's my wife. Yeah, did we take a picture, you, me, and my dad? I didn't find one. Okay, well, yeah. So yeah, I thought that was cool. And then, he would say, "Okay, we're gonna go take a trip to a resort this weekend because I have extra money from not paying a mortgage." And so, he was able to sort of directly tie the lifestyle benefits to me from his decision to house hack. And I think that it's benefited my father substantially from living and owner occupying in this triplex. This was his property. It's on Kelly Street. It's a triplex. So it was one 3-bed, 1-bath. That was the unit that we occupied. And then 2 1-bed, 1-baths on the second floor. He bought it in 1999 for $124,000. 2 raspberries and a ham sandwich. His mortgage was $800 a month when he first bought it, and the rents for the 1-bedroom apartment in 1999 in Manchester was $450 for heat and hot water included. So he effectively was able to cover his mortgage with the rents that he was collecting back in 1999, which was pretty incredible. Now I'd like to get personal. I'm going to tell you about what I've done as house hacking. So I've house hacked 2 triplexes. This was the first one that I bought in September of 2019 on Rimmon Street in Manchester. It's 3 3-bedroom units and a 4-car garage in the back. I bought it for $340,000. My cash to close, so this was down payment, closing costs, everything included. I bought this for $10,000. Now I was able to buy this for $10,000 because I got an FHA loan, which you only have to put 3.5% down. And then through my state housing agency, I found that there was down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. And a lot of state housing agencies will offer this. I recommend that you check this out. In my state, it's called New Hampshire Housing. So it might be, Indiana Housing or whatever your state is from. Check it out if they have down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. But that was able to, they gave me, I think, like 2.5% towards closing costs and the down payment. So net, I cut a check for 10 grand and I bought this house for $340,000. And when I closed, I was immediately collecting $3,500 a month in rent. So there was $1,480 from the first floor unit, $1,200 from the second floor. I rented all 4 garages for $350, or they actually came rented. I bought them rented. And then we had a roommate that was living with us that was paying us $500 a month in our 3-bedroom unit. So my mortgage was $2,850. So after I closed, I went from paying about $1,000 a month of rent to being up about $680 monthly. And that right there, sort of exemplifies the power of house hacking. Now it gets better. When I bought this at $340, I actually thought I was buying the top. I was like, oh man, I'm such a dummy. It's definitely going to go down from here. Turns out, no, I did not buy the top. I, bought it maybe halfway to the top. So in July of 2022, we moved out to do our second house hack. It appraised for $530. So I bought it for $340. It appraised for $530. That's after putting, 20 grand into it. So massive ROI. That's just kind of like luck, and I don't really know how to recommend replicating that. Yeah, buy Bitcoin, I guess. But ultimately, you can't be lucky unless you're taking action, right? So my recommendation is, if you want to get lucky, you have to take action. We got a new loan of $400,000 at an 80-20 loan to value. At 4.25%, we paid off the old loan of $330. So we pocketed $70,000. We had $130,000 left in the deal. So after living in this house for 3 years, rent and mortgage free, it made me 200 grand. The rents for the building are now, when we refied it, $5,775 a month. Our mortgage increased by $50 because I had PMI on the first loan. I did not have PMI on the second loan. Increased to $2,900 a month. So now we have a monthly NOI of $2,875. And after other expenses, vacancy, utilities, CapEx, we're pocketing about $1,300 a month in cash flow from that first property. So then we moved into our second house hack. This is on Heavey Street in Manchester. This building is actually funny because I can see it, or I previously saw it from the window of our old property. And you can ask my wife if this is true. I would tell her, like, every time we were in the kitchen, man, I love that building. I'd love to buy that building. And just so happened a friend of mine bought it, and then he wanted to sell it, and I was able to tell him to sell it to me. So we paid him a good price, but this is the house that we actually currently live in. We live on the second floor unit here. It is one 4-bed unit on the first floor, a 3-bed unit on the second floor, and a 2-bed unit on the third floor. We actually just converted that into a 3-bedroom unit. We bought it for $525,000, cash to close. So to buy this property for $525,000, I cut a check for $35,000. Now I was able to do that. So FHA loan is usually the loan you want to get when you're first buying a house. I was not able to get another FHA loan because I had already used it for my previous property. If you refi, you might be able to get another FHA loan. I would talk with the loan officer for the specifics, and these rules change from time to time. But the reason I was able to get such low cash out of to close is I asked the seller to do a credit to me, credit closing costs. Thanks, buddy. And also I found a local credit union that was willing to do a 5% down loan for an owner-occupant, even if it was a second property. So individual banks will have different loan options. And I actually, when we first got this property under contract, I had to call about 10 different banks to be able to find a loan that would allow us to buy the property. So I highly recommend loan shopping, but yeah, cash to close $35,000. So I was able to use half of what we just took out of Rimmon to buy this one. Rents when we bought it were $3,800 a month. So the first floor is renting for $1,850. The third floor was renting for $1,550. And we still had a roommate that moved with us. They were paying us $400 a month. Well, I'm talking about Matt. We had 2 roommates actually. We had one roommate paying us $700 a month, and then my brother moved in with us, and he's paying us $400 a month. The mortgage is $2,850, and check this out. This credit union that I found gave me a 40-year mortgage at 3.75% interest. Yeah. I'm just stealing money from the bank. So. I'm seeing some banks now that will do 40-year mortgages. So I have a $500,000 balance on this property, but because it's a 40-year mortgage, I'm only paying $2,850, and that's principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So our monthly net while living here is $950 a month. So we got $1,300 coming in from Rimmon, $950 coming in from this. It's really starting to build now. Then, just wait, it gets better. January of 2025. I decided to refinance the mortgages that we had on these properties. 400 Heavey Street, after buying it for $525 in 2022, appraised for $750,000, and I put maybe $10,000 into it. I found a local bank willing to lend 95% LTV, allowing me to get a HELOC for $147,000 at 8% interest. So I didn't refi the original mortgage. I just took out a home equity line of credit. I used this equity to buy Bitcoin. There you go. And first mention of Bitcoin, I swear. And I was also able to buy out one of my business partners in my property management company, so I was able to buy more equity in my primary business. 386 Rimmon appraised at 720. I took another HELOC out at that one for $150,000. That's at 9% interest, and I haven't used that one. I still have that full line of credit available. I'm just keeping that as reserves in case another investment opportunity appears. 9% interest to buy Bitcoin. That's I don't know about that. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yes. Yeah. I think Claude told me. Yeah, it's okay at 8. Don't buy at 9% interest. Thank you for asking. So a HELOC is a home equity line of credit. Essentially, what that allows you to do. So I bought 400 Heavey, right, for $525,000. And I put $35,000 down, so I had about a $500,000 mortgage on the property. Then it appraised 3 years later for $750,000, so I had $250,000 of equity in the property. So if I sold it, I would get a check for $250,000. Banks, I found a bank willing to do 95% loan to value. So they were willing to give me a line of credit worth $147,000. So essentially, I'm borrowing against that equity in the property. So if I sell the property, I'd have to pay off my original loan plus the $147,000 that I bought. So I bought 3 to 6 Rimmon for $340. It appraised for $720. I bought 400 Hebe for $525. It appraised for $750. Both times I felt like I was buying the top of the market. Both times I was wrong. And now on net doing this, I bought the first one in 2019. It's now 2026. I bought that when I was 21. I'm now 28. It's added nearly $600,000 to my net worth from house hacking, in addition to not having a housing payment for the last 6 years, which has just been massive for shoveling money into VTI and Bitcoin and my property management company and other real estate investments as well. In addition to these, we bought a 4-plex and an 8-plex. I just want to talk, and I'll come back to you for your question, Jason. Just hold on to it till the end. I want to talk just briefly about the preferable lending that's available with house hacking. So typically, real estate investments require 20 to 25% down. Is anyone in here a real estate investor? No one. Wow. Okay, cool. Oh, okay.
Not yet.
Yeah, okay.
We understand.
Okay, yeah. So typically you go to bank, they want 20 to 25% down for an investment property. The power of house hacking is, again, that FHA loan where you only have to put 3.5% down, or or a non-FHA loan like I found through that credit union where it was a second property that I was buying, but they still only required 5% down. You typically only see that kind of financing if you're willing to own or occupy the property. And typically you can keep that financing on the property after you move out, but there is often some type of required occupancy period. It could be a year or two. You can ask the specific bank. I would recommend not committing mortgage fraud. So like not taking out an owner occupant loan and not living there. Like if you say you're going to live there, because that's not, it's not worth, yeah, it's not worth prison or whatever, or getting foreclosed on. But the lending can be really excellent. Typically you get lower interest rates as well. So a property may not make sense to buy as an investment with normal investor financing, but it could pencil if you can get owner occupant financing. Rental, this is another really powerful one that not a lot of people are aware of. So let's say you make $50,000 a year and you go to a bank and they say, okay, based on your $50,000 a year income, you can qualify for a $250,000 mortgage. That's typically how people will start to house shop. They'll say, okay, where can I find a $250,000 house? With house hacking, you can actually use the rental income that the property produces to qualify for a larger mortgage. So if you make $50,000 a year, but you anticipate collecting $2,000 a month in rental income from a property you're going to house hack, that's an additional $24,000 a year you can add to your qualified income, which means you could qualify for a mortgage of $300,000 or $350,000, which could allow you to buy a triplex instead of just a single family. So if in your area multifamily properties are more expensive than single family properties, just keep in mind you can use the rental income to help qualify for the mortgage.
In that scenario, will there have to be a rent roll provided to the lender?
Yeah, typically.
Okay.
But you can
verify what's possible. I'm assuming.
Yes, yeah. For a specific property, yes. But oftentimes you can say, hey, can you tell me, like, what if I collected $1,000 a month in rent, $1,500, $2,000, and they'll tell you, they'll tell you your buying power. And then you can look for properties, right? And so you can say, okay, this 4-plex will give me $3,000. Let me add that to my income, and here's the mortgage I can qualify for.
That scenario would be already occupied with tenants in place.
I would say so.
Qualify for that upside of the buying power.
Yeah, oftentimes banks will even require that. So if you look to buy a totally vacant property, that they may not say, okay, here's the projected rent. They want to see actually collected rent.
They have no receipts at that point.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, exactly.
thank you.
Great. Yep. So that's something really powerful. And we talked about how challenging the affordability of housing is, particularly in New Hampshire and nationally. The rental income to qualify can't allow people to get these properties. So house hacking has the benefit of potentially being more affordable or making it easier to get into home ownership, and the benefit of reducing your housing expense and buying an asset. And then down payment assistance can be available. I said go to your local state agency, and this is something that you can find. Now I want to do something a little bit fun here. Okay, actually we're not quite there yet. How to find a property house hack. So my recommendation as like step by step. Step number 1, Get pre-approved and secure your down payment. So if you are currently not pre-approved for a mortgage, talk to a lending officer and see how much you can qualify for. Then secure your down payment. So make sure you have that saved and make sure that's not your emergency fund. Your down payment should not be your emergency fund. Run your numbers and clarify your buy criteria. Do you want to buy a duplex, a triplex, a fourplex? My recommendation, buy as big as you can. Buy a fourplex. Typically 5 units or more fall under commercial lending. If I could go back, I bought 2 triplexes. I would probably try to buy 2 fourplexes. Because again, the financing is just so excellent that you want to buy as much real estate as you can with the preferable owner-occupant financing. Locate a property and make an offer. You can hire a real estate agent to help you with this. Get a property inspection and beware huge rehabs for your first property. My recommendation, if you're not very experienced, is to buy something that requires light cosmetic work. If it needs a foundation or if it needs like a whole property flip, I just would stay away from that for your first deal. And yeah, my personal recommendation, buy the most amount of real estate possible with this excellent owner-occupant financing. Okay, so, and then house hacking exit strategy. Make sure that when you move out of the property, it can independently sustain itself as a rental. And you can do this through underwriting, what rent you will be able to collect with your unit after you vacate. Comply with your mortgage contract occupancy requirement. Don't do mortgage fraud. And then consider self-management versus third-party management. So when I first bought my triplex, I'm a pretty agreeable person, and I'm kind of scared of conflict. So I actually hired a property manager to manage the property despite me owner-occupying it. And I just pretended like I was another tenant moving in. That worked for a little while, but then one of the tenants kept parking in my parking space, and then I was like, okay, I'm the owner. Get out of my parking space. This is an option, right? If you're like, okay, I want a house hack, I'm game, but I just really can't get past dealing with tenants. You can hire a property manager for a property that you live in, and they'll collect the rent, they'll enforce the lease, and they'll deal with re-renting the units and fixing them up and fixing stuff as well. So if you have any hesitancy there is a solution, but just make sure you underwrite for that. How much do they cost?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I recommend usually factoring in like 10 to 12% of gross rents collected. Some property managers, their fee will be like 8 to 9% of gross income, but then plus auxiliary fees, it can get up to like 10 to 12%. All right, we're gonna do something fun real quick. Somebody shout out a city. I heard Arizona? Phoenix, Arizona, okay. So we're gonna do Phoenix, Arizona, multifamily for sale. All right, we're gonna pull up Phoenix, Arizona duplexes and triplexes. Now I created this Claude prompt that I'm going to share with you. It's called House Hacked Prompt. And with this prompt, I recommend you review it, but I made it so that you can just plug in an address and it'll tell you if it'll work as a house hack. So we're gonna just take a look at a random property here. So this is multifamily, here we go. Duplex and triplex homes. So here's a duplex in Phoenix, Arizona for $450,000. So I'm just going to copy and paste this address. Can you tell me if this will work as a house hack? All right, then I'm going to add the prompt. And this prompt should work with ChatGPT or Grok or something else. So I'm going to go ahead and plug that in, and then that's going to work in the background. Someone give me another city.
Reno, Nevada.
Reno, Nevada. All right, Reno, Nevada. Multifamily for sale. All right, here we go. Nevada duplexes and triplex homes for sale. They got 189 in Reno, Nevada. Let's see if we can find a triplex. Okay, here we go. This one looks pretty good. Fourplex, nice. So here we've got a fourplex in Las Vegas, Nevada. I guess that's not Reno. Close enough. All right, we'll plug this into Claude. Can you tell me if this will work as a house hack? All right, and then we'll do one more. Someone yell out another city. Des Moines, Idaho. All right, great. Iowa duplexes and triplexes for sale. All right, let's see if we can find another triplex. Let's see, something that looks kind of nice. This looks like a nice duplex. I guess this isn't Des Moines. Oh, it is Des Moines, Iowa. Okay, here we go. 1004 Kingsman Circle.
I know where that is.
Oh, you do? Okay. Yeah, nice.
You want to buy that?
Will this work as a house hack? All right, then I'm just going to upload my prompt. Go ahead and send. Okay, and then this one should be finished over here. No, it looks like it's still working in the background. All right, we'll come back to that one. So while that's running some numbers here, I just want to go over one final thing, and then I'll take any questions, and then we'll take a look at what Claude says about these house hacks. So common objections to house hacking. I want privacy, right? I don't want to live in the property where my tenants are located. My recommendation is consider building an ADU or consider buying a multifamily property that has separate structures. A lot of people don't realize this, but a multifamily property does not have to be one building. A fourplex can be 4 single-family homes on one lot, and banks will often lend on these as if it is one fourplex. So you can have the privacy of a single-family home plus the rental income from the other properties. Okay, all right, thanks. He said about 11:05, and then we can all head over.
Y'all please continue. Say as long
Yeah.
as you want. I know he wanted to. Continue.
Thank you, Josh. Yeah. So you don't actually have to live in a property where your walls or ceiling or floor are shared with other people.
What is an ADU?
An ADU is an accessory dwelling unit. So a lot of municipalities are now passing legislation that will allow you to build a smaller home on the property where your single-family home is located. And that can be a really profitable endeavor because you can build this thing for $150,000, $200,000, and then rent it out for an amount that is greater than whatever the financing was to build it.
They show up reported as multiplexes.
What was that?
They show up reported as multiplexes?
Yes, yeah. Then it would be converted from a single family into a duplex, but it's a duplex with 2 separate structures. Yeah. So if privacy is an obstacle or something that you're concerned about, you can find multifamily property that has separate structures. So if this is something that's a real priority to you, then you can solve for the privacy issue. I can't get a loan. My credit's bad, my income, I don't have any income, whatever. I would recommend consider apartment hacking or cheaper housing until you can qualify. So apartment hacking is just, if you're going to rent a 1-bedroom apartment for $1,000 a month, maybe you rent a 3-bedroom apartment for $1,500. Get 2 roommates paying you $600 each, and then you're only paying $300 instead of $1,000 each month. That could be a $700 a month savings. So that's apartment hacking, and that's sort of like a nice baby step to house hacking. I don't want to deal with tenants. Consider a property manager. We talked about that. I'm worried about the market crashing. My recommendation is don't try to time the market. Nobody. Like I said, I thought I bought the top twice. I didn't. I think it's the top now. I'm probably going to buy more. Who knows? It could all crash tomorrow, but a lot of very smart people have told me it's going to crash and it hasn't crashed. So.
How long do you have to live there before you can rent out?
The unit that you live in?
Yeah.
So it depends on the terms of your loan, but typically it's 1 to 2 years. Yep. Did you have a question, Jason?
Speak to what it's one little cool. A lot of states have, like Ohio has what's called a home buyer account. It's kind of like a 529, but it's for buying a house.
Oh, cool.
And I found one at a credit union in Ohio that pays me 52% interest.
52% interest?
$5,000. So I put like $1,000 in it, and they pay me $500 a year.
Holy shit.
And it's then state tax deductible.
That is incredible.
So I didn't put any more money to it. It was a deduction on my state tax return. So kind of a nice little hack until I could use it. You have up to 5 years to use it.
Was that in Ohio, you said?
Yeah, it's in Ohio.
Does anyone else live in Ohio? Oh, bummer.
So,
I might move to Ohio.
but it's
50.
up to 5,000, so it's not like an unlimited pot of money. But
Yeah.
a lot of states have these, and look up an obscure credit union and see maybe you got to get a little deal. Some of these credit unions can give you nice deals to get you into their rope you in. But
Yeah, the government, for whatever reason, sees home ownership as a top priority. So they just throw money at subsidizing home ownership, which pumps up the values of homes and makes them less affordable. That's another problem. But you can take that to your advantage if you're willing to buy a multifamily instead of a single family.
Can you speak to what it's like living, like raising kids, like in the situation you're now, and what it was like for you growing up? Just what it's like being under the same roof with tenants?
Yeah, if you're gonna have kids, I recommend living on the ground floor. We live on the middle floor right now, and I feel very bad for the tenant that lives underneath us. She's a nice older woman, and she doesn't complain. But and she's lived there for a long time. But I know it must annoy her, and so she's just very kind for not complaining. So yeah, if you other than like being concerned about disturbing other people, I think if you live on the ground floor, you'll be okay.
Here's an interesting concept I have too. So my in-laws in India, they have this middle floor, they rent out the lower floor to somebody else. And when my mother-in-law got very sick before she actually passed away, they were considering like, what can we do to be able to make things handicap accessible, because they couldn't build an elevator. They didn't want to move her down to the lower level because they felt like that lower level was the first to be targeted for crime.
Oh, yeah.
So you gotta think about your perspective of what is your city like, what is your personal handicaps, if it's like little kids is your situation, or whether you're the elderly person.
How we live
That's a
on
good point.
the ground floor with people above me, I'll say dogs are worse than kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
Scratch the floor.
Since you're talking about government-backed loans, FHA, VA, USDA,
Yeah.
it's also helpful to remember that those can be assumed. So sometimes if you are walking into a lower interest rate,
Yeah.
that becomes an asset. And as an investor, you can actually acquire those properties. You still have to you have to meet the requirement. You have to be you have to live in it for a year. That's the minimum. But we assumed a 2.25% interest rate last year on a home
Nice.
where we live, and when interest rates were about 7%. And so it can be an asset for you, but it can also be an opportunity for someone who's trying to acquire a house like yours. You might be, when you're selling it, if you still have your FHA loan attached to it, just be thinking about that.
That's a great point. Yeah, that can actually be an asset and add value to the house itself.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Yes.
When you're doing the appraisal portion, one of the main things people I've had trouble working with are if there is a tenant and now we need to appraise or inspect the house, how are we handling this? Because some of them are kind of not wanting to disturb their tenants.
Yeah, I mean, that's a part of apartment living. Like, yeah, in my leases, it says specifically I can access with 24-hour notice. And, sometimes I'll get them like, I don't know, a $30 gift card to a steakhouse and say, hey, thanks, sorry for disturbing your dinner, or go get dinner while I'm doing this or whatever, but yeah. Great, so with this Claude prompt, I just wanted to show you. So this was the one in Phoenix, Arizona. Claude says this fails. At $450,000, this triplex fails 3 of the 4 pass criteria. Year 1 house costs run $1,200 a month, above comparable rent criterion, so we want $500 or below. So it's got the property snapshot, it's got a bunch of information analyzing it, what your down payment would be, your total loan, your closing costs. And so year 1, year 3, year 5, if you house hack this property, you would lose $70,000 in 5 years.
Is that bad? Well, it just depends. It's going to appreciate after.
Could be, yeah. Then it's still working on this other one, and then it's pulling market data on the third one. Unfortunately, my internet connection is pretty bad here, so it's not. But anyways, I'll share this prompt in the chat. Yeah, this essentially gets you 80% of the way towards underwriting. I would check some of its assumptions because it's pulling local comparables and local rent comparables as well, and sometimes those can be a little skewed. But with this prompt, you can just plug in an address and it'll tell you how it looks as a house hack.
What exactly is it searching for? Because I'm used to doing AI through local runs, but it seems like it's trying to pull data from places. So what exactly is it needing to pull?
Yeah, so it's pulling comparable sale data and comparable rental data to say, okay, here's how much I think you could rent this for, and here's how much, how the price of it compares to other comparable properties.
Like from Zillow,
Yeah, Zillow, MLS listings, things like that. Yeah. So yeah, I think Josh's talk will start, so we'll wrap it up there. Thanks very much for coming. Yeah.